Welcome back to another episode of Non-Toxic. I'm your host, Daniel Penny. I'm bringing you guys a special conversation that I had a few months back when I was recording for Carbon Bros. It's with the fitness influencer Colin Davis, who's well known for his outspoken leftist politics and his attempts to fight back against the chokehold that the right seems to have over bodybuilding and grappling sports culture. Colin had so much to say that I was sad I couldn't include in our final Carbon Bros episode, so I decided to go back and give you guys a much longer taste of our discussion, which I think many people will find very insightful.
Democrat people that are like, how do we get young men back to Democrats? I'm like, you're not. We need to go farther left.
Colin is a little salty at times, but extremely honest and I think very authentic in his engagement with leftist politics and the particular position that he finds himself in. And I think it's a really interesting and instructive listen for anyone who wants to understand how the left might try to win back those elusive Gen Z men. This is the free version of our conversation, so I'm cutting it off about halfway through. If you want to listen to the whole thing, you got to become a paying subscriber to Non-Toxic. To do that, you can go to substack.com/nontoxicpodcast/subscribe and sign up to become a paying subscriber today. Thanks so much. All right, here's my conversation with Colin Davis. Colin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I thought maybe we could just start with who are you? Where are you based? What's your job? Just kind of the basic facts.
So I am based out of North Carolina. I've been born and raised there my whole life, and I love it. I love the South also. I think it has a lot of really great things to offer that a lot of the country doesn't see a lot of the times because of its problems. And yeah, I do personal training and coaching full time. I guess I do social media full time now. I mean, in the last 3 months, Instagram has become like a job. Previous to that, it was still just an app on my phone. So this is a very new world for me of like content creation for things that I really care about and not just using it as like getting for my personal training. And all of the advice that I got from other coaches and people in the business was like, yeah, just don't talk about politics, be apolitical. I don't know how you can be apolitical right now. Don't say anything, like you don't want to offend anyone. And then as soon as I started being open about my politics and essentially talking shit about all of the things that I hated in the industry, my following blew up, and I've had the opportunity to meet a ton of other leftists, gym goers, and people that I am politically aligned with that also are in the fitness space. And it's been incredible because I think it feels isolating for a lot of guys that are left-leaning and still traditionally masculine to be like, who do I fit in with? You know, I'm trying to fill that gap a little bit, at least online.
Amazing. So this is like kind of early in your journey.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. Did you go to school in North Carolina or was that like, did you go somewhere else for university or skip that entirely?
Did, yeah. So I left high school and then I did cabinetry for 2.5 or 3 years. I did it up until the shop got shut down for COVID and we all had to go home. And then I was like, well, let me try this personal training thing. I've always liked going to the gym and I don't want to sand cabinet doors until I'm 80. So that was when I made the transition in like mid 2020 to coaching. Yeah, I did just straight out of high school into blue collar, which I enjoyed. It was an education in its own, I think, being in that environment for a lot of years from 17 to 20.
Did you do sports in high school?
Yeah, so I grew up wrestling was like my main sport. And until I recently injured myself, I was still coaching and like doing it for fun. I'm not an Olympian. I'm not going to be competing at an adult national level anytime soon. But yeah, I grew up wrestling. I played lacrosse. I played football. I played baseball. I did track. I played, I think, every sport that I possibly could sign up for from about 8 till I graduated high school.
So athletics have been a big part of your life, like since you can remember.
Yeah, massive. And I mean, that's the reason I got into the gym initially was to be better at sports. And then leaving a competitive environment, I found a community and some meaning in my life in the gym as like a means to continue this like physical expression that I'd been looking for.
I've been interested in the kind of rightward shift of
Hmm.
Gen Z young men, which I think was very confusing to a lot of progressives who assumed
Yeah.
like, well, millennials were, more progressive than like older generations, and like everyone just keeps
Hmm.
getting more progressive. Like as you like each generation should be more and more to the
Yeah.
left, and that obviously that fell apart completely. And that you mentioned just in your story, COVID having a huge impact on like your career trajectory. And so I think there are like two things I want to talk about with that, like, or two events. One is COVID, because I think that pushed a lot of young men to the right in a lot of interesting ways. And then also like your experience with Me Too, because that would have been when you were still in high school.
Yeah. I think the Me Too movement, because that was as I was like sophomore, junior in high school, which is, I think, for most kids, like when you're starting to explore like sexually, oh, like I have a car now, like we can go like make out or whatever. Like, and I think the Me Too movement was right and good. But I think a lot of young men who needed to hear that message immediately checked out. Like they already are disrespecting the opinions of women, and now they're getting told even more like you suck, right? And then the guys that didn't need to hear it, that were already asking for consent and being respectful and had good boundaries with women, took that message so hard and are now paralyzed to approach anyone ever at all because they're like, I don't want to be a creep. And so now you have this dynamic of men in my age group where the ones that are aggressive and going and hitting on people and trying to like find partners in the wild do not respect boundaries and just don't care at all, because also they saw the consequences of cancellation and they're like, oh, this is a fake thing. Like there's this made up consequence for my actions, but nothing's actually going to happen. So I can continue to do whatever I want. To get back to your question of like, you got isolated during what would have been my senior year, junior year of college, like a massive point of like making connections and making friends and building a social network of generally more left leaning people if you're at a university, right? You have this real world community ripped away from kids at a very pivotal moment. And then they're getting told that they're evil for trying to go party and hang out with their friends when they are young and healthy and in the prime of their life. And I think that culture shift of like, you cannot have the life that everyone else has had, like message from the government, I think was a big push to the right. If we're like into being like, no, like fuck you, fuck public health, I'm not going to do this. Like, you're telling me I can't go to the gym and drink a beer with my friends when I'm 20? Like, that's all I want to do. Where we're at politically now, you have Trump as this figure of like, you can do whatever you want, fuck everyone else. You don't have to actually have a political message. You just have to piss someone off and you're on our team. And that is so easy for these guys to resonate with, because it's like, yeah, I'm mad and they keep telling me that I'm evil. And the more that they're mad, the more that we win. It's just triggering people or rage baiting people into, if I make you angry, your argument no longer matters and I can do whatever I want. And I think that's a big draw for young men, is like, I don't have to think, I can be dumb. Like, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but I think that is a big draw. And
Um,
they're selling like a forever teenagerhood.
yeah, it's adolescence that never ends.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you see yourself in this online space, because at the beginning of our conversation, you said you're kind of trying to carve out a different lane, that a lot of guys in the fitness space lean to the right. I'm curious for you to talk a little bit about that situation as you see it, and then your decision to start expressing an alternative point of view about what masculinity could be or look like while still embracing the outward signs of this right leaning gym culture and this idea of like strength and bodybuilding, which are not innately political but have been coded right. So it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to shake those associations.
Yeah. I think there's just like a a lack of it online. All of the guys that I know that are left leaning, that bodybuild or strength train or grapple, just aren't online anymore because they're like, this is terrible for me. I hate it. It makes my brain explode. Like, I feel dumber. I don't want to use this. Like, it's funding all of these evil things. Like, I don't want to give these people my money by giving them my attention. And so the guys that are in this niche, it's not even, I don't think it's a niche. I think there's a ton of guys that are like this, but they just aren't engaging online because you spent what the last 5 years, like since COVID, really, either arguing or getting shat on online if you have these opinions by your peers, right? If you're in like a grappling group chat or you're in like a bodybuilding forum kind of deal, like the majority of those voices in those forums are going to be right leaning. And I think again online, there's not examples of just like, I hate to use the term normal because like what the fuck is normal? But like normal looking guys that aren't inherently political but are left leaning, right? There's a ton of like guy with microphone being like, this is the news and these are the problems in the world and like explaining politics from the left, right? And then the right, there's none of it. It's just a bunch of vibes based like streamers who are like playing a video game, and then at some point someone asks a question in the chat and they're like, oh yeah, like Trump's cool, I guess, whatever. And then like go back to doing whatever they're doing, right? So it doesn't feel like this like political push for messaging. It just feels like, yeah, I'm a guy and I have these opinions. And I think that's kind of where I'm trying to find the line for the left is like, how do I explain these big concepts and like dumb stuff down to make it make sense to people that don't have the language to understand like third wave feminism or like macroeconomics, right? Like those concepts are immediately going to check out 80% of my demographic. And how do I make content that is still just fitness content, but also like makes it apparent that I'm left leaning without being like, hey, I'm a leftist and you're a bad person if you're not. I feel like that's what a lot of the messaging feels like to men and to young men is like, join or you're a fascist, instead of being like, hey, like we're doing all this cool stuff, like you want to come? Like that it like pushes people away because you give them this like black or white, like good, bad, and they're like, well, fuck it, I'll be bad. Like I guess, like I don't agree with you on 100% of the things, so I guess I'm a fascist. And then as soon as they like feel like, oh, that's okay, then it opens up the rabbit hole for everything else.
That's an interesting point. The kind of the purity test and feeling like you can't pass it. So you
Yeah.
might as well just be bad.
Yeah, like with Me Too culture, like cancel culture, whatever, like the language policing, as silly as it seems, I think to a lot of people, is a huge, huge part of why young men move to the right. It's because they're like they're 16 and they want to say some slurs. Like it's stupid. It is insanely dumb that that's like the hill they're dying on. But it's like they want to like say the R word with their friends and not be like, you're a fascist. You know what I mean? Like having some room for a 16-year-old boy to like make crude, dumb jokes with his friends. And then by the time he's 23, 24, he's like, wow, what the fuck? Why was I saying that stuff? That's crazy. And he comes into himself as like an adult in normal politics and like being a good person. But if at 16 he says the wrong word and then somebody's like, you're a Nazi, and then 5 years later there's a Nazi party, he's like, well, yeah, yeah, I guess I'm with those guys. Like,
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think historically, like before everyone lived their lives online, if you used a slur or made an off-color joke, like it wasn't happening digitally. It was happening
yeah.
in person. There was no record of it. There was nothing for anyone to like come back with the receipts and cancel you in front of like
Mm-hmm.
none of that happened. So like you could cringe a few years later and say like, wow, I really shouldn't have said that. Like that was really immature. But beyond the social consequences of your immediate circle, like there was nothing following you for the rest of your life. So yeah, that's an interesting point you're making. I want to talk about climate because that's kind of the other side of this coin here.
Yeah.
You've posted a lot about like saving public land and you do a lot of kind of like outdoor content. And I'm interested in the fact that so many men don't seem to believe in or care about the climate, despite the fact that like men on average spend like more time outdoors. They're much more likely to be working outdoors, like they're more likely to be exposed to like extreme heat. Like there are all these ways in which, and also just in terms of like recreation, like the hobbies that a lot of men like to do involve being outside. And so it's like you would think you would care about this in some way, but there's
Yeah.
often a disconnect. I'm curious to hear about like what your interest in that topic, where that came from, and how you think it's braided together with the other messages that you're putting out there.
Yeah, I think my initial like reason is like I love the outdoors. I grew up as a Boy Scout and like I spend a ton of my free time hiking and swimming on state parks and national parks and like that is a massive resource that I think is the only thing that matters at some point. None of these other issues matter if we have a failing climate. So that is number one, we need a place to live and kids need a place to like go be in nature without their parents and the parents can feel safe. At like 10, my mom can go drop me off at a state park and be like, he's fine. There's a park ranger, like he's not going to drown. Go pick him up in 3 hours. And that sense of autonomy in nature was a massive part of figuring out who I am. And I think like why I care so deeply. And then also my partner is in the climate space doing very impressive things that are far beyond my pay grade. And so talking with her and seeing it on a larger scale was very eye-opening to be like, wow, there are a ton of people that care. And this is a massive industry that could have a massive effect. And it's just not because of a lack of funding or like lobbying by oil companies or whatever these other nefarious reasons that sustainable companies get shut down. And yeah, I amassed this following out of nowhere. And I was like, well, I'm going to talk about things that I care about. And nature and the outdoors and keeping the climate stable is one of those things. And it fits well into leftist politics. Again, nothing matters if we don't have a healthy climate. And then for men, I think I've been having a lot of these conversations about what's the problem with young men or men in general. And the thing that I keep boiling down to is empathy and apathy.
Mm.
So many men just don't care at all about anything. That's like their baseline existence is just like, whatever. I'm going to work this job. I'm going to do this thing. It's all bullshit. I'm just living my life as I'm supposed to as a man. I'm going to provide. I'm going to check all the boxes. And they have no connection to the world around them. They have no genuine passions or interests. And it makes it really hard to care about using a plastic bag at the grocery store or not. And I think seeing empathy as weakness or as feminine is a big problem that a lot of guys have where they feel like they can't care because you're a bitch if you care. Like your friends are going to make fun of you a little bit. Somebody's going to make a joke at your expense about being soft and you don't want to deal with those social ramifications. And so even if you do care, you're not going to say anything because you're like, oh, I don't want to be the bitch. And I think once more men realize like you can go, yeah, I do care. You don't? Like, what the fuck? Like, what do you're making fun of me for caring, turning it around, like, and almost like bullying people into empathy has been the strategy that I've found works the best.
But that does require a certain level of confidence and
Yeah.
ability to reflect in real time and a level of security in your own self that I think,
And I also,
yeah, most men don't have at your
yeah,
age at least.
I think I have the very specific advantage also of being jacked and like grew up fighting and wrestling. And so in these male dominated spaces, I am the respectable character. Like they are forced to listen to me because of all of these things that they find respectable, which is dumb. My ability to lift weights and punch someone in the face has no bearing on who I am as a person, right? But like those qualities are immediately disarming where they have to be like, oh, I have to listen to your opinions because there's also this idea of like, well, if I can beat you in a fight, then I don't have to listen to you. Like dumb barbarianism, like why the UFC is so popular now and why Trump is having a UFC event is because it breeds anti-intellectualism because I don't have to engage with you if I can beat you in a fight because your words don't matter once I hit you in the face. And I think that mindset for a lot of blue collar guys, for a lot of dudes that are out there, like weighs more heavily than I think they realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that is like truly the basis of fascism.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have to listen to you if I throw you in the oven. And yeah, I mean, the UFC thing I think also coincides a lot with COVID because it was the only sport.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was a UFC fan pre-COVID, like from wrestling. And so, like, I'm also not like a big sports guy in my day-to-day life. Like, I don't watch football or whatever. So, like, I didn't really notice that sports weren't on, but I did notice a lot more people talking about UFC and MMA and jiu-jitsu and this like counterculture sport world where it's like we're not listening to the rules and I'm not going to let the government tell me what to do. We're badasses. And I think that attracted a lot more of the like political right guys to being like, "Oh yeah, like I do want to watch this. Like they're standing up to the man." Even though they are the most popular sport by far, they still get to do this like counterculture, like underground shtick of like, oh, we're cool and edgy and like different. And that attracts people that want to feel counterculture without having counterculture politics, right? Because like they're co-opting this like punk, like hardcore culture without any of the political messaging of punk and hardcore and sub and like counterculture. Because like they are the leading political culture and the leading sport culture, but they still get to like portray themselves as this like dumb or like underground system that like you get to be a part of.
Which is appealing.
Yeah.
How do we fix this? I know you can't possibly have all the
Yeah.
answers, but what are the paths out of this mess?
I mean, on the climate front, I feel like just getting people to care about the smallest thing. Again, something my partner did is like she just like didn't get a plastic bag once, and I was like, why? And then she explained why she didn't get plastic bags, and I was like, oh, cool, I cannot do that. It like grows this mindset of sustainability and awareness of the climate around you by doing this tiny action that everyone can do and getting men to not feel stupid about it and like making fun of them again, like reverse bullying into empathy, being like, oh, like you don't care about the fucking planet, dude. That messaging from me has worked pretty well. And then I think larger sense, like what do we do with young men moving to the right? I think first and foremost, they have to feel like things are actually going to change, right? Because they came up in Obama, who was this progressive, right? Spoke like a revolutionary, had all the right language, did all the right things. And then economically, they got like, we got fucked. Like, we are coming into a job market that is in shambles. Like, the economy's ruined. You can't afford a house. Like, everyone I know is just like, yeah, I'm just never going to own a house. Like, they can't they can't be bothered to care about the world when like my life is falling apart financially. If I don't have a job and I don't have a house and I can't afford food, I don't give a fuck if the rainforests are on fire, is what I think the most of the mindset is. And progressive politics, when they supported them or when they watched their parents or older brothers support them, got them here. And so they're like, well, I guess I'll go with the other one. Like at least he's saying like things will be cheaper.
Okay, well, that's it for this episode of Non-Toxic. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Penny. The music for Non-Toxic is by Nathan Sharp, and the artwork is by Sam Creasy. Non-Toxic is only possible because of listeners like you. If you'd like to support the show, head on over to substack.com/nontoxicpodcast/subscribe and become a paying subscriber today. It's what keeps the show going and helps me make new episodes. Also, if you're a fan but you can't afford to subscribe, why not rate and review it wherever you listen to podcasts? That helps other people discover the show. And then there's always the good old-fashioned texting a friend and saying, hey, you should listen to this. All right, that's it, detoxifiers. I'll be coming back at you in a few weeks with another episode. Stay tuned.